Yo, 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 good evening, everyone. Good evening to the Goodman community. Good evening to everyone who is listening in, regardless. It's your boy, your host, Goodman Daps. I have got to my left, Goodman Rizzy, and to my front, I've got Goodman Chidi.
Yo, happy to be here.
Good. Big shout out to everyone that's going to be listening into this. As usual, we always want to show love to the Goodman community, so please don't hesitate for a moment to use the discount code GPOD1 for a discount on any of the products on our website. Also, please, we want to be able to make sure that we keep everything as interactive as possible. I want to be able to engage our audiences a lot more, so please don't hesitate to use the hashtag #AskTheGoodmen. Obviously, there's myself, Goodman Rizzy, Goodman Chidi here as well. Feel free to ask any questions using Twitter or any of the other social media tools. Hashtag #AskTheGoodmen. We will always do what we can to be able to answer as quickly and as effectively as possible. Obviously, as well, don't hesitate to use the hashtag to actually bring about certain topics that we could actually use to discuss in the next episodes. It's very, very beneficial to us because there are so many things that we could cover, but not everyone in our community is aware of. And as Goodmen, we want to be interactive and engage with each other at all times. So please don't hesitate to use the hashtag #AskTheGoodmen.
Lovely.
All right, now that we've got all that formal bollocks out of the way, let's get into the episode, man. Let's get into it. Today, we have a very special guest, Goodman Chidi. Goodman Chidi's actually been on the photo shoots in the past. So if you see one yellow brother like this with with a good beard and that, all doing all of that, then it's probably going to be Goodman Chidi. Welcome, Chidi, man. How you doing tonight?
Again, happy to be here, man. It's a good time right now.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Lit. So today, the overarching topic and the theme that we want to discuss is ownership.
Yeah.
Ownership, to my knowledge, is something that's very multifaceted. So by that, anything could count as ownership, being a business, getting into aspects of property and so on and so forth. But for someone like yourself who is pretty much your, like bread and butter, and for someone like me who ideally wants to get into that, because one of the things that I was actually looking to do for the coming year is to actually be more nuanced in the aspects of investments or ownership and how to get into the right kind of things to be able to increase our level of ownership. I think not only for some of us individually, but actually in regards, and I guess that's why this episode is going to be so insightful, because it provides a lot of knowledge to the Goodman community as a whole. Many of us that want to be able to learn more, but we don't necessarily know the right route into it or what are the kind of pitfalls to avoid. Hopefully the aim is that this episode should hopefully be able to address as many of those questions as possible. So Chidi, obviously you're involved in a lot of that,
Yeah.
Give us kind of an insight into what it is for you and what it is that you do.
Yeah. So I'll give you a bit of an introduction. So
Yeah.
I'm a real estate advisor.
Okay.
And one of the things I do is I advise different clients on, investing or acquiring and disposing real estate across the UK and Europe. And so I've been doing that for a few years. And as you can imagine, you meet, weird and wonderful people from different backgrounds.
Yeah, of course.
And, what they do is they come to me looking for, solutions on purchasing property. And that was really my first taste in understanding the importance of ownership. Ownership is so important. It's obviously an investment in some regard, but in a time where we need so many different investments, property is certainly one of them, and that's something which I'm helping clients do every single day.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I guess in the period that you've been involved in doing that, what was the kind of path that kind of got you into that? Because obviously most, something as specific as real estate, that's not really something that you typically fall into. That's more kind of something that you choose to kind of, delve into. Like, what was the process for you? What got you into that?
Do you know what? I won't lie to you. I did just fall into it. So funny enough.
Okay.
It's funny you say that, because funny enough, what happens is that everyone focuses on financial services, whether it be banking and other compliance, other aspects. And real estate actually is that industry where people fall into. It's that secret sector. So from a background, if you were to speak to many young, so I'm a surveyor, investment surveyor, if you speak to many young people, it's either they've got a connection via their personal family and friends,
Yeah.
or actually just fell into it. And I was certainly the latter. So, study economics and at 21 looking for a job like everyone else. And managed to get a job at a real estate firm, and pushed on from there.
Nice.
Lovely.
Nice. I definitely dig that still. I'm not gonna lie, like I always feel that like with certain roles, like for myself, I do recruitment. Funnily enough, in financial services, because I deal with financial advisors and stuff. And on my end, I can definitely say that I fell into recruitment by chance. So I've always kind of wondered how certain fields, whether or not it's a by chance thing, or whether or not it's a case whereby it's actually something that you intentionally choose to go into. Do you get what I'm saying?
Don't worry, I'm not going to change that. I'm going to make sure I'm changing that.
Yeah.
I'm really working on that now, making sure some of the young people are coming in through the industry.
That's lit.
From school level and college and university as well.
That's lit.
Um,
On my end, I would say someone else who's obviously very well and familiar with ownership is obviously our Goodman Rizzy. Obviously, being involved with Goodman factory, and for those that don't know, he's also actually one of the head honchos of 10 Toes. I've been preing some of those slippers. Yeah, I'm coming for that.
I'm
coming for that young discount.
Well.
I've been preing. Listen, I saw some ones that were looking like what fur and that. I said, yeah,
I should have brought them in today.
I mean, when you're ready, bro.
Yeah, word, absolutely. But obviously, I guess for someone, because obviously there's only so much I know about ownership, but obviously you, Rizzy, and you, Chidi, would have a bit more knowledge about that. For someone like yourself, obviously you pretty much started 10 Toes from the ground up. Obviously, you and Goodman Malik, obviously bringing about and birthing Goodman factory. How would you say, and I guess this is open to the both of you, and I guess you too, what would you say the benefits, what would you say were the main pros and cons of going into aspects of ownership? And I mean by the pros in terms of the gain that it's done for you, whether it be monetary, socially, and I guess the kind of pros in the sense of what made it difficult, what's made it easier, and so on.
I'll say I'm still learning. The gains, I wouldn't say I'm in a position where I've gained from the seeds that I've sown. But I would say, the things that I would say what I've gained is the lessons.
Yeah.
The lessons, from losses, making mistakes.
Yeah.
I would say that's the gain. That's the advantage of like choosing this path of like, trying, wanting to own something or, just wanting to play part in the economy, basically, so like grow your wealth. That's the game that I'm playing, and I'm just willing to learn. I just want to just keep learning. I still feel like I'm still very young, and I've learned a lot in a short space of time, and there's still more. I'm just seeking knowledge.
Yeah, that's fair. And how about you, Chidi?
Exactly. Ownership and wealth is wealth building, and the importance of ownership is you have the authority, you have the power, and I think that's in essence why we want to own. We want to be able to control some of our destinies, in essence. We don't want it to be in the hands of someone else to decide. So I think let's just get it clear as to why we should own in the first place. It's having control. The reason why someone buy a freehold is because they now have ownership. If you have a leasehold, you have the right to occupy. So you don't actually own the actual property. So I think these are just some of the things why people are looking at ownership, certainly in 2020, whether it be property, whether it be investing as well.
Yeah. Would you say in your time, obviously in terms of, being a real estate advisor, in terms of building a portfolio, I would assume, again, there's so much that I'm not too sure of, so forgive me if I'm sounding like an idiot right now, because I don't want to say the wrong terminology and then I'm looking like an idiot, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to avoid that. But I guess for someone like me, one of the things that I really did want to do for much of like this year, which was a plan, was to kind of be able to ideally, get the right kind of savings, ideally look at the right kind of things that I want to invest in.
Yeah.
For me,
did you see anything that attracted you that you thought I'll consider this?
Do you know what? I can't really say. All right. So for me, my main thing is, how am I able to make money passively? That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
As someone who has always had to, work and, get some, money, put some away,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. It's like, it's the same old formula. And I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't just want to sit on the fact that every month I get paid, I stack up a little bit more. What are the other avenues that I can create for myself?
Yeah.
Or what other lanes can I get into that will put me on the path towards financial freedom?
Yeah.
Everyone says, money doesn't make you happy. And I am completely in agreement with that. However, what money does is give you options. It affords you options that makes you happy.
Thanks.
And that's why I want to be able to have money. And that's why I want financial freedom more so than anything else.
Yeah.
I like fancy things. I like shiny things. I like, anyone that knows me knows my love for pinky rings is insane. Even though I don't have one on me right now, but I want to flex. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, considering the age that I'm at now, like, late 20s, ideally, the kind of decisions that I make now are ideally going to dictate the earning potential or the assets or the growth of said assets for myself and my family by extension, perhaps in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And it will be foolish of us to still be doing this whole thing of, oh yeah, we're young, it's not really that deep, it's not that big. And it's funny enough that you're involved in real estate, just purely because in terms of what I do, whereby I work with financial advisors and independent financial advisors and so on and so forth, there's always such a huge misconception as well that for you to have a financial advisor, you need to be rolling in it.
Yeah.
And for those who have ever come across, for anyone that's listening, if you've ever come across any financial advisor, you hear financial advisor and you're thinking, yeah, this is for the ballers only. It's honestly not the case. I implore anyone who's ever considered, and the funny thing is that it's not just purely about the aspects of helping you maintain your money. They can show you things about where to put your money into investments wise. So in general, most advisors tend to deal with investments, protection, mortgages, and aspects of equity and equity release.
You know what? It's very good that you said that, because
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that I've come to understand about people is that they think you need a lot of money to invest.
Yeah.
Like, I can make a £20 investment and that's all for the week. you
Yeah.
know? Or it might just be £100 and that's it for the month.
Yeah.
That's because that's all I can do that month. So you can start off with very little. A lot of people see it as like, if you're putting a small amount of money, what's the point? But if you're putting a small amount of money over
Consistently,
a long period of time, by the time you get to a certain age, you're going to look back and think, whoa, like,
Exactly.
I really stacked up all of this, depending on what it is. If it's stocks you're buying, land, okay, obviously not. But,
Yeah.
I don't know, cryptocurrency, what else is there?
Yeah,
ETFs.
there's so many different things. As you said, there's a low barrier to entry, which means actually you can start investing with minimal.
Yeah.
And,
The little
and,
list.
and, and actually, I would say the key word is opportunity cost. Right now, where are you going to put your money anyway?
Yeah.
That's going to move, going to do something.
Yeah.
Right? The savings, interest rates that you get on the in your accounts are so low. So where are you going to put your money in? But that to me is actually the simple question, right? When thinking about where else to put your money.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, okay, I don't know anything about investing. I'm not really interested in investing.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with me just saving money in a savings account? I'm just stacking my
It's
money.
being eroded by inflation.
Say that again?
It's being eroded by inflation.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand inflation. This
Yeah.
is the problem. So
Yeah.
that's why you see...
I'll put my hand up and say, listen, I don't know much. So
And I love the fact that you can be open and just say, I don't understand inflation.
yeah, like from what I know, just by using the word inflate alone means that something expands over a period of time. So inflation, for example, could perhaps give context as to why, for example, normal miscellaneous household items steadily increase over a period of time. We look at, okay, let's look at something that a lot of us tend to use: public transport. When you're
Perfect
using
example.
perfect example, yearly we always hear, commuters, myself included,
Yeah.
kicking off about
It's going up.
increasing rail fares. And for someone who obviously, I guess in its own way, shout out to COVID in the sense of because travel costs for a lot of us, especially for those that are working from home, have essentially been like nullified. If let's just say there wasn't COVID and so on and so forth, we'd be at a period whereby we're all stressing out, thinking, all right, they're gonna they're gonna increase ticket fares again, and so on and so forth. So I guess now that you've brought it up, what exactly is inflation, and how does it directly affect things like, or how does it directly affect the process of ownership? In the sense of wanting to invest and so on and so forth. This question is also open to you as well, Rizzy, because I know, again, business owners, ownership, you're both going through different but similar kind of situations.
So I'm going to allow Chidi to explain what inflation is.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you can probably, direct your point,
Okay, in essence, when you think inflation, you think time value of money. And the idea is that over time, the value of money today is being discounted. And so if I have £10 today, in 5 years from now, that £10 isn't going to be worth the same. It might well be, £8 or something like that.
Sure.
So actually, over time, the value of the money does change. And so you want to make sure that when you're thinking about what you're doing with your money today, that it's growing and it's keeping up with, we use the word keeping up with inflation, so that it isn't being eroded, but it's actually keeping a pace to make sure that
it doesn't fall behind and therefore lose value over time.
Correct.
Okay,
So that's in essence, and there are many different products which, all you need to do is look at statistics as to what inflation has been doing over the last, few years.
Yeah.
And then start to think about what products actually act as a hedge against inflation. So if inflation is up 2-3% per year, then in essence, what you should be looking for is products which would guarantee you, in some cases, more than 3%. So that way, your money is moving along with the times. Yeah. As you can see, this year has been a bumper year for some people on the investing side. Yeah. And so they're more than just hedging against inflation. They're making serious gains. So I think this is important when understanding, where we are in current times, the fact that, savings rates are at record lows. Yeah. It's not keeping up with inflation. We need to look elsewhere.
It's funny that you mention that, funnily enough, just because I know that the industry that I'm in terms of recruitment and financial services, one of the things that became very apparent was that a lot of businesses were withdrawing. So because obviously I focus on ideally looking to hire financial advisors for certain firms nationwide, one of the first things that was affected, like there are always three main industries that always kind of let you know how things are going in the economy: IT, finance, construction. If you're usually in one of those three industries, you're pretty much always guaranteed to make money. It's pretty much guaranteed. Finance and construction in particular tend to kind of give a rough idea of how the economy is looking or where it's going to be headed. And one of the things that I realized during that period was that when the lockdown kind of hit, first off, most people in FS, in financial services that were financial advisors and IFA firms and so on, they pretty much just went dead. Yeah. No, we're not involved. We don't want to hire anybody. We need to focus on cash reserves and make sure that we're still liable, to ideally be able to still be operating as a business. Market borderline crashed for a very, very brief second, whereby a lot of businesses were panicking because it's like, for those that are in financial services that perhaps want to buy or sell businesses, they're terrified because now they're thinking that the value of their business is going to be lowered as a result of COVID. Then you've also got to look at other businesses as well that are still looking at whether or not they can still actively even be open as a business, And that also had a knock-on effect on certain recruitment firms that obviously specialize, within certain fields. I'm grateful that the business that I'm in is one that is quite mobile, and also at the same time we've got really, really good connections, because I've heard different businesses saying that, I've got friends that are in different firms and they've said, oh look, we've not made any new placements since the start of the year.
Oh wow.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And these are businesses that are still these are recruitment companies that are doing pretty much the exact same field that I'm in, dealing with their own set of clients, because you've got thousands of IFA firms and financial advice firms nationwide. And some of these guys are saying that, yeah, we've not made any placements with any of our clients since January.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking,
2020 has been a very tough year for a lot of business owners.
So tight.
Not only business owners, but just people.
Yeah.
Like cash is low. You know, it's not coming in like it used to. And people have over leveraged themselves. You know, they're in a lot of debt. They never saw this day coming. And this is why it's very important to, like, you know, think of tomorrow. Like, think of, you know, next year. Think about, you know, the worst case happening. You know, you have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
The moment I realized, like, I understood inflation, and I understood the reduction in purchasing power. I literally just spent some time. I remember I was working in my office like 2 years ago. This was when I was working before Goodman Factory was launched.
Yeah.
And I just spent time on the Bank of England website.
Yeah.
And I just looked at the inflation calculator, and I just was looking at, you know, how things were in the 90s, when my parents got here, how things were in the 80s. And I just saw how strong the pound was, you know, how, you know, what you could get for your money, the prices of property, and it's completely different to what it is now. And I just think, okay, I'm born into this world at this time. How do I, you know, get myself ahead and not make the same mistakes that our parents made when they were younger? Not to say that they made mistakes, but, you know, there's just certain things they probably could have taken advantage of. That
maybe they didn't know.
They didn't know
they
about.
couldn't know, yeah.
So I just spent a lot of time just, you know, just educating myself about that. I didn't study economics or anything like that. I didn't, you know, I wasn't taught how to run a business, but I just went out of my way to just, you know, learn, you know, educate myself, read books, and I've learned a lot of stuff. So yeah, going back to what I was saying about inflation, that's what encouraged me to want to put money, you know, park it in certain places. So I don't know, like buy gold, for example. Gold is a good hedge, as Chidi just said, to protect your money. You know, it holds its value. It's very strong.
Yeah. In
the long term, it's always performed well for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you know, Warren Buffett always says, actually, for the novice investor, just point it out there, that, you know, invest in an ETF, invest in a S&P ETF. And an ETF, by the way, is an exchange traded fund. And what it does, it kind of imitates an existing index. And, you know, there's some indexes that are growing at 8% on average. And this is data taken back more than 100 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that
so
annually?
Annually.
Annually.
So 8% annually, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Depending on your risk appetite, you can find many stocks that are growing more than 8% per annum.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is diversifying. This is another point now, risk. This is all about your risks now.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're earning a certain amount of income, and, you know, we're all hearing about Tesla, we're all hearing about Airbnb that's just IPO'd.
Oh yeah.
I heard that apparently that when it dropped, apparently it had more worth than Marriott and the Hilton combined or some shit like that.
That's crazy numbers.
Oh, what the hell?
Crazy numbers.
What was the percentage gain on the first day?
It was like, I think 120% or something like that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Crazy numbers. But the question is, depending on your risk appetite, are you going to put all your savings into Airbnb? There's some people that may have done it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
they're
that's
on
true.
they're on one side of the spectrum. And there's some people that said, you know what, I'm not going to invest, i.e. me. I said, I'm not investing this time. I'm not going to get killed. And I'll wait maybe at a later date. So again, my risk appetite, when we now think about investing, it's about your risk and what you're looking to do with that risk. And generally, young people tend to be the more riskier. You know, don't necessarily have dependents. Your income as well, when you think about the life cycle, your income tend to go up as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot actually we can do now to ensure that when things do get tough and things do get a bit more challenging, over the coming decades, that we've already, you know,
you've
bearing
got,
the fruits of that risk.
Yeah, you've got certain contingencies in place that can ensure. Okay, that's fair.
And I was really said actually, in terms of, you know, information, there's so much information out there now compared to 20 years ago.
Especially on YouTube.
Fantastic
there are
resource.
So many experts on YouTube that have their own channels, and every day they're making content.
Yeah.
And it's there for you to go and have a look.
Free game.
And these are like people that are double our age.
Yeah.
They're like 50-year-old, 60-year-old men that have been investing all their lives,
Yeah.
dropping gems on YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, and then also there's so many books. Like one of my favorite books that I've read is Think Rich, Grow Rich.
Yeah. Is it who's the author again?
Napoleon.
Yeah,
Hill.
Napoleon. Yeah.
That's an amazing book. I think that's a very good book that I would recommend anybody to read.
Yeah.
Before you start investing, read Think Rich, Grow Rich. And I'm sure you've got some more books to recommend.
Yeah.
as well.
There's a few as well. Intelligent Investor as well.
Yeah, that's a great book.
There's so many resources. Some obviously books, but some actually free resources. As YouTube and all sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much free game out there. You'll be silly not to tap into it.
Okay. I was also going to say that just because of the nature of this episode and the fact that there are, of course, a lot of different sources and so on and so forth, please just try to do your best to just stay aware of our Twitter feed, as well as potentially information in the episode bio, whereby we might be able to drop a few of the books that have been mentioned by Rizzy or Chidi, just so that obviously anyone who is a novice in it can actually just kind of have a kind of foundation to start from. So whether it be from books and websites, there was a website actually. It's so funny that this episode has come up because I was actually talking to my dad not too long ago, and obviously old school Nigerian man, well set off, and back home as well they don't really have stuff like pensions. So my dad actually retired a lot younger than probably a fair amount of his contemporaries. I think he retired probably like maybe 5 to 10 years early or something like that. But that was just because A, my dad is ridiculously smart. B, also at the same time, he made sure that he had contingencies in place accordingly, especially in a country like Nigeria, whereby you don't have stuff like a state pension. We've seen it whereby people come in, people in, from back home are really, really rich, or they're really, really poor. And we've obviously, everyone knows about the disparaging wealth gaps in a lot of communities across, Africa, and of course in Nigeria, just locally, and Africa by extension. And I asked him, and I think I said to him before when he was earlier in this year, and I said, "Oh, Dad, I want to get involved in stocks and stuff back home. I want to invest in stocks and da 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 da." And he said to me? He went to me and he said, "Dakwa, my boy, I understand you want to, start to build that kind of residual passive income, but if you're gonna want to do it, you're better off doing it here in the UK than trying to start off back home in terms of stocks and stuff." And I asked him, I said, "Why, Dad?" He said, "For one thing, fundamentally, the pound is far stronger a currency than the naira would be. So if you are going to ideally look to invest here first. Get a good grasp and understanding of the foundations of what it is to be involved in stocks and investing and so on and so forth. Once you've actually started to accumulate wealth here, then take it back home." Because I'm sure that,
Wise words.
Yeah, that's literally what he said to me. He literally went to me and said, don't look at trying to invest back home. It may seem like the easier thing because obviously, the value is kind of higher because it's lower and so on and so forth. But he actually said, no, do the UK first. Learn how to do it here, right? Once you know how to do it accordingly and you know what to invest in and, you know how to invest and you've got the principles and the foundations right and you've actually put something in and you've actually started to see positive returns, then come and speak to me about us investing in Nigeria and so on and so forth in terms of stocks and so on and everything else. So there's definitely that. I did want to kind of get onto something that you mentioned in terms of diversifying risk.
Yeah.
And obviously just being aware of the different types of things that ownership encompasses.
Yeah.
So obviously for yourself, Rizzy, obviously, you do, you run a business, 2 businesses, for yourself, you're a real estate advisor and so on and so forth. Have there been, and obviously you've already mentioned, invested in certain materials or minerals like gold, for example.
Yeah, metals.
And metals, rare metals and so on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. What would you say for someone who is actually, no, let me ask this first. What would you say are the key or the most popular forms of investments? So whether it be properties and so on and so forth. And for depending on, how much you have saved and invested and so on and so forth. How much more important do you think it is in our time, as opposed to the time of our parents, to be investing? Do you understand? Right? Because I feel like, based on what, you guys have said, it sounds fairly straightforward, right? But most things, things, especially when it comes to things of where you're going to put your money. And I think for myself, for example, and, anyone else who else, when they listen to this may agree or not, is I think when it comes to investing money, not knowing what you're putting your money into kind of makes people apprehensive. So, like, for example, now I can go to the shop and put money and get this can, and I know that once I hand over this money, this is the gain that I make, right? But then being able to potentially invest your money into the unseen, not even knowing whether or not it's going to be,
especially in this digital age,
precisely.
You just go to the app store, download the app, sign up,
and
add your
trust
bank
me,
details, and then you start investing.
Trust me,
where's my money going to?
Word.
We can also talk about 2020, how a lot of people have developed this, investor mindset, and they want to start investing. Like, talk about 2020, like what you've been seeing.
The obsession, actually. I would say, I don't know about you, but I would say that 2020 has created a perfect storm, right? Where people are now keen to invest.
Yeah.
Obviously with caution, because
of course,
what we don't want is a situation where people are blindly investing. There is certainly a foundation, even though markets are not actually behaving that way. But it's important to think about that this time, so many people are investing, so many people are doing it. And
I think a good thing?
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
The reason why is your favorite high net worth is also investing. Yes, I appreciate they probably have advisors who have significant knowledge in the area, but I don't believe that the average retail investor, i.e. the average person, should be excluded from that table, should be excluded from investing in general. So I think all in all, it's a net positive that people are now finding a situation where, I think you raised earlier, that you're saving now on travel. You're not traveling anymore. So people are now allocating what they would have put on travel into investing. Right?
Yeah.
So it means that there is now an understanding to know what to invest in. Now, again, a word of caution is this has been a crazy year. I'm sure everyone can agree on that.
Yeah.
And also the markets have reflected that. It's not necessarily, this is not, usual.
Yeah.
Year on year.
Very unusual.
Very unusual.
Yeah.
So what I don't want people doing is seeing that their portfolio has gone up 40% and believe that that can happen every single year.
Yeah.
So, but I think, as I said, all in all, it's a net positive. We want more people, understanding ownership. What you're doing is you're owning into stocks, you're owning into companies.
Yeah.
I've been to a number of talks where someone said to me, all the products you used, can you actually say you're an owner of it? And I was like, wow.
When you say products, what do you mean?
Products, for example,
Anything.
your Netflix subscription.
Okay, right.
Do you have stocks in the business that you're using to do Netflix and chill?
That simple, right?
It's that simple.
Like,
sometimes, it can be that
invest in
simple.
the stuff that you consume.
You're validating the product.
Yeah.
You're validating the reason why it ought to be popular.
Yeah.
So that, to me, was a very interesting analogy, that start thinking about some of the things you use.
Yeah.
And work out whether you ought to be investing in it. Now, of course, that's very simplistic, but it's a starting point. It's a starting point from having a list of potential stocks and saying, I want to know more about this from a financial and investing perspective.
Point of view, yeah.
Do you get? So I think that, to me, and then of course investing, when now thinking about other asset classes, it's a low barrier to entry. You've seen so many different apps that would say you can invest from as little as X amount.
Shout out to cryptocurrency 212.
Right?
That's what they do all the time.
Cryptocurrency, any amount.
You see that crypto, Riz, you may need to teach me on that one. I still need to invest in crypto.
Do you know what? A lot of people have joined cryptocurrencies in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, even there's an app called Coinbase.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
That's an app that.
Coinbase is a well-known one.
I would say it's the best app that people could download from the App Store. That can just introduce you to cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
There's a thing called Coinbase Earn, where it educates you, it pays you to educate you, to teach you about Coinbase. So you can start making money right away, like a quick 10, 20, 30 pounds by just literally sitting down and watching a couple of videos and, you know, learning about what the cryptocurrencies actually do. But I think the issue with that is that a lot of retail investors rush to apps like Coinbase. They put money down and the market, and then they see their investment go up in value. But one thing about investing in cryptocurrencies is that you haven't made any money until you sell for profit and withdraw it back into your bank account. So you're just watching all these gains, like, oh, my investment's gone up 20%, my investment's gone up 30%. You're just watching it.
It's cosmetic.
You don't know when to sell.
Yeah.
You don't know how long. You haven't made a plan on, you know, when you haven't made a plan for why you've even bought the cryptocurrency. You kind of just FOMO'd, fear of missing out. You've seen people talking about it, and it's like, oh, maybe I should join this too, and then you just go and join in. And that's how retail investors FOMO into, you know, investments, and then you get wrecked by the big players, the people that have been in it for long. So it's very important that you know what you're investing in. Don't just because everyone's talking about it and everyone's doing it, go and invest in it. I would advise that people should be very careful before they invest in cryptocurrencies.
I guess this actually brings me on to my next question, which would be, you know, on the topic of, you know, retail investors and those that are actually looking to get into any form of investment period. Do you think it would actually be worth getting a financial advisor, at least in the early stages of being able to and wanting to know what it is and what it means to invest accordingly? Because obviously, like you've rightly said, you've got retail investors who, for fear of missing out, will jump onto something and they will probably see a quick formula and think, oh yeah, that works. And
I'll give you a perfect example. Tesla stocks have been rising. Right? A lot of people have tweeted, I've made, you know, serious money from Tesla stocks.
But have you sold the stocks off?
Not even that, but someone will read that tweet and be like, oh, maybe I should invest in Tesla stocks. But you've invested in it after it's a lot of people
after it's mad high. So what's the point?
So, and one thing you need to understand about the markets is there's always a correction in the markets. When something goes up, what goes up must come down. It's not a bad thing that it comes down. It's just that there's a sell-off, you know. So
and they do it to kind of keep everything to a certain degree, kind of level.
More times it's just profit taking. People just take, like, when you see your investment grow in value.
Yeah.
A lot of people just, I want to take profit. I want to, you know, sell the investment, what I've invested in, the product. Yeah. And take, you know, take my profits. I've won.
Sure.
So a lot of big players do that when something's risen in value. But then there's that person who's read the tweets or seen, oh wow, a lot of people have made money from Tesla stocks. Let me go and invest in it. Yeah. They invest in it, and then a couple of weeks later, the investment goes down. Yeah. And they just feel like, oh, going at the wrong time. So it's just little things. You just have to really educate yourself on, you know, the basics and the fundamentals of investing. That's what I would say is very important. I wouldn't say go and get a financial advisor, because the person, you can't just get a financial advisor. A lot of people have that title of I'm a financial advisor, but that person could have their best interest at heart.
Yeah, I'm going to say, just on that topic, just to educate people on the whole thing of financial advice. Wow, I'm actually talking about my day job. Mad. I never thought the day would come where I'll be talking about it on the show. But basically, to be a financial advisor within the UK, and this is something that I believe everyone should absolutely take care. It's very, very essential. So prior to 2011, 2012, anybody could essentially call themselves a financial advisor. It wasn't actually a regulated position by the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority. Wow. Then 2011, 2012, they had RDR, which I think was retail distribution review or something along those lines. And essentially after that, if you wanted to become a financial advisor in the UK, whether it be a case of you're a tied advisor or whether you're an independent financial advisor, I'll explain what tied and independent means in a second. In order for you to actually be able to do that, you must have a level 4 qualification in financial advice. So you've got two main ones, which is the DIP FA, which is the Diploma in Financial Advice, and you've got DIP PFS, which is issued by the Chartered Insurance Institute, which is a Diploma in Regulated Financial Planning. Right. So DIP FA is usually more accessible to those that are bank assurers. So by bank assurers, I mean, for example, you go into your high street bank, HSBC, Barclays, and so on and so forth, and you can essentially speak to an advisor, someone that is there. And in order for them to be able to offer certain advice and for them to be able to offer recommendations, whether it be on their products or any others, you've got to have that level 4 qualification. If you do not, if you don't see in any of their titles as a financial advisor, if you're not seeing DIP FA, or if you are not seeing DIP PFS,
don't listen to
they
them.
are not a financial advisor. It is cap. You might have a few who may call themselves wealth managers, which is also another like synonymous kind of title, which is fair. However, if you're not seeing level 4 qualified, forget it. That person is not a financial advisor. They can swindle you.
So be very careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because ever since that period, and a lot of the things and a big part of what kind of brought that on was obviously the prior financial crisis.
Yeah.
That happened obviously 3 to 4 years before that, right? So as a result, they absolutely said, yeah, if you're not registered on the FCA, if you don't have CAS clearance, so that CAS clearance essentially means that you're signed off to be able to give advice to clients and be able to refer certain products.
Right.
And that therefore brings me on to the next topic of the types of financial advisors that you come across. So you've got 2 types. So you've got, 3 types, but 2 kind of counts as one and there's the other. So you've got tied or max tied advisors. These are advisors essentially that can provide services. They can provide all the services of a financial advisor. However, the products and services that they offer you are tied to their particular institution. So, for example, if we were to talk about most high street banks, right, and you're speaking with a financial advisor in any of said high street banks, you're going to be speaking to, and the products that they're going to be offering you are going to be of that particular business. So if you're going to a HSBC financial advisor and they're a bank assurer, which they are, they're going to offer you HSBC-based products. For them, it's that rigid. I'll give you another very, very good one. I'm sure you guys have heard of Aviva.
Yep.
Cool. Aviva, financial advisors, right? They are tied advisors. They can only offer products and services that Aviva approve because it's their business and they have their own services accordingly. An IFA or an independent financial advisor is someone that is based within a particular financial advice institution, right? So it could be a wealth, those that deal with high net worth clients, those that deal with. So when you hear of financial advice and you hear of wealth management typically denotes those that are high net worth, ultra high net worth clients, or those that are bigger investment portfolios, for example. They can offer, they'll give you advice, they'll offer recommendations, they'll offer products, but they are not tied to their business. They can offer any product at any given moment in time. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Yeah. So you could go to you could go to an advisor and you have virtually no knowledge of the field. So let's say I wanted to go and speak to a financial advisor now, and they told me, that they're an IFA. That says to me that, okay, perfect. You're not going to offer me products purely because you're tied to this business. You're going to offer me whatever products you think may be best and may be relevant to me as a client. Right?
So what you're doing right now is debunking the myth that actually financial advisory for retail investors is actually can be quite useful.
It's a complete myth. It's a complete myth. A fair amount of advisors actually, when you do actually want to see them, and they know that and they know you're not sure, some of them actually do offer free consultations. So probably for like the first session that you go and speak with them, right? Obviously, you're going to absolutely have to kind of lay all the cards out on the table for yourself financially. So if you're rich, they'll let you know, okay, you're kind of rich. If you broke, they're going to let you know you broke. But it's more than just highlighting, it's this and this. They will look at the different types of things, come up with plans and recommendations that will ideally be able to help you improve your financial standing, or whether it actually just be a case of, or like we're talking about the aspects of ownership. If you just want to get with an advisor to learn more about investments, then they will help you do that. Yeah. They can definitely help you do that. So just, that's just a bit more knowledge for everyone that's listening, that please don't feel that by any means or by any standards that you cannot speak to a financial advisor. They are a lot more accessible than you think, number one. And number two, in terms of how they charge, there are different ways that financial advisors charge things in different ways, right? So for some, it could be perhaps based on what you invest. Yeah. So it could be a case of based on what you invest, they may take a percentage of that perhaps at the end of a financial year.
Yeah.
For example, that may be an example. For others, maybe you're paying as you go along, for example. It all depends on the way that particular business operates and how the advisors and how they charge their fees accordingly. So just be aware of things like the fees, whether or not they are a restricted advisor, an independent financial advisor, and also be very, very clear on what your aims and goals are, and they will definitely do what they can to help you achieve that accordingly.
Chidi, what would you say is like? Would you say like it's very important to have ownership in property?
Yeah,
Is it something that everybody has to take part of?
I think, put simply, I think it's important. We're talking about ownership. We've spent a lot of time talking about stocks and investing in different asset classes. Property is just one other asset class, and I think the ultimate goal is to be able to have ownership in majority of asset classes, and property is a big one. I think certainly in our generation, property is one of those topics that there are no shortage of opinions, no shortage of just how to get on the property ladder, investing in property, and what the long-term gains could be for anyone who's invested in property. So 100%. And I think what's important is then drilling down, you mentioned financial advisory, is drilling down ultimately what the goal is. Without goal setting, then, you're, whether it's investing or anything for that matter, you're not going to achieve those goals. You need to set out some clear plans. You can get experts to help you on that one, which you just provided from free game on. But, you can set up some clear goals. When would I like to invest in property? And then at some stage, then start drilling down as to what constitutes as a good property investment. I spend, every single day working with clients, working on what constitutes as a good property investment. And I think once you get to that stage, then, it's either neither here or there. But ultimately, ownership in property is important. Just to give you some rough headline stats, I think the ONS provided statistics on different ethnic groups and their ownership on property.
Right.
And it put, if I'm not mistaken, those from an Indian background, that's 74%. Wow. White British, 68%. And then that percentage changed to 44% for Black Caribbeans, and I believe Black Africans, 22%. So what that actually tells you is it's quite nuanced, depending on what your background is. And it's important that various different people across the UK are adopting different strategies, right? So there are some who may feel like renting is important, and there are some communities who think that they have to own because they don't have a lineage of owners. Right. So I think it's important also when thinking about those headline stats that why ownership is important. Some demographics believe it to be more important than others, and there are some who are now racing to make sure that they're owning over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, just thinking about the nuanced position across different people across the UK.
That's true, because I remember I went to Berlin in Germany, and renting is a thing there.
Yeah.
Like home ownership isn't. It's not. I don't know. It's just.
It's not. It's not a thing in Europe. So or certainly in main parts of Europe, and I'll tell you why. So ownership itself became an obsession when thinking about from the Thatcher time, and she introduced the idea of right to buy, and since then we've seen many people want to aspire to own property, and we're talking about pre-07 and all of that stuff. Actually, I would say it's actually pretty easier relatively to purchase property pre-07.
Yeah.
Right. And arguably you say that's actually what caused the problem. But that's the reason why, there's some countries in the world where ownership is actually magnified a bit more.
just on that, just in terms of what you've just said in regards to aspects of ownership and how it led into that, there is actually a film that I would recommend certain people watch, and it was a big thing. It's called The Big Short.
Yeah, watched that many times.
I would highly recommend.
It's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah, it's on Netflix as well. It's got what's the name of that film? What's the name of that legend from The Office? Is it Will Ferrell? Is it? I forgot. I've forgotten his name, but him, Ryan Gosling, and a few other guys. It essentially highlights businesses, obviously, that are big into finance and stuff. And I only literally watched it for the first time this year.
See, that's interesting again. This year,
my mind was blown. Yeah. But just in terms of the context as to what kind of led to it and so on and so forth, it is a fair amount of information to take in, especially if you're not particularly nuanced in finances. But you can see the knock-on effect just throughout the film of being able to invest. And it's essentially a masterclass in knowing when to buy and when to sell, pretty much. Obviously, Rizzy and Chidi have both watched it, so you'll both agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Just for yourself, obviously, as someone that's a real estate, deals with real estate and so on and so forth, some of the most successful people that you've seen dealing in home ownership and investments and owning properties, would you say that they all had a consistent formula?
Do you want to expand on that? Consistent formula in...
So I mean, in the sense of some of the most, so whether it be people that, clients that you're directly dealing with, or perhaps other people within your business or within your company, depending on, of course, whether or not you're employed or self-employed or whatever. But if you're in a business, for example, some of the most, what would you say for those that have multiple properties, for example, that you've come across? Because I'm sure certain landlords would perhaps go to a particular real estate person to help them deal with, putting ads out and so on and so forth. What would you say is there like the formula for them that brings about their success? And would there be any gems that you could drop for the good men listening?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think which one best describe that. I'll tell you what driven them to do it. So one of them basically said, "This is for my grandkids," and he wanted me to support him in acquiring property from across the country.
Yeah.
But I think one of the key lessons I've learned is actually, no matter what the obstacles are, get the deal done. And I think that the important part is that in life there's many obstacles, but I don't want to care about obstacles. I want to care about the finish line. Yeah. So the same way where to some people, purchasing property, and you see so many headlines, the average person would be, late 30s before they buy property.
Yeah.
There's so many obstacles and so many negative news out there. But I think with the mindset on no matter what it is, we need to get it done. I think that's actually one of the formulas and key points that when I meet so many, high net worths that I'm speaking to, that's what they tell me. Chidi, I don't care what you have to say. I don't care what the bad news is. I still want this.
So it's the determination and the consistency.
Yeah, I think that's the key point.
Do you know what that tells me? I read a book called "Obstacle is the Way" by Ryan Holiday, and the book just basically tells you that through life you're always going to have obstacles. So what does that mean? Are you going to stop?
Yeah.
Are you going to allow obstacles to
consistently define
achieving things?
Yeah.
So like you just said, you have to overcome these obstacles no matter what.
Yeah.
Reach your goals, like do the job.
Exactly.
No, that's done. I'd say that's the same thing even in terms of what I do, when they say, oh, we've got this client and they're playing hardball in terms of getting this done, there's one thing that we're always taught, which is called TKD, time kills deals. And the longer you let things drag on, the less likely it is actually to happen your way.
Yeah.
So do what you can to circumvent that as soon as possible. And obviously, the fact that I'm hearing that's something that's consistent, especially when it comes to these kind of things, is quite refreshing. And I would definitely like to believe and think that in terms of what we have discussed today, there's definitely a lot more knowledge that's out there, not only for our listeners, but for those whoever else may be listening, whether stragglers and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And obviously just want to give a big shout out to, again, Goodman Rizzy, Goodman Chidi, on that. Once again, guys, thanks a lot for listening to the exceptional audio listening experience that is Goodman Factory. You know the vibes. We are definitely going to be looking to give you guys the relevant information, because I know that obviously a lot of things have been said. So like I said earlier on, we'll ideally put in the bio of when we publish this episode just a few of the books that have been mentioned, and perhaps some of the films as well, to kind of give everyone that is, depending on your your level, novice to to expert, to just have a good bank of content to potentially read up on and clue yourself up on. But that's going to be it from us, the Goodman Factory podcast today. Once again, thank you for everyone that's listened in. Obviously, due to the pandemic and so on and so forth, we kind of got blindsided a little bit. But, we out here, we live, at least until they decide to potentially lock us all up again. But, we keep it going all the same. Love to everyone listening in. Peace, deuces, Goodman Factory, we out.